Hello, and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Aleko, and I'm here with Terry Morrow.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast, we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Terry and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics, because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. So this week, we are continuing with our watch of the second season of Veronica Mars, and we doubled up. We have 2 episodes from the second season. The 10th one, which is called One Angry Veronica, and the 11th one called Donut Run. So we'll take One Angry Veronica first, which is a really quite useless episode in which Veronica is the foreman for a jury trial, which is happening during Christmas vacation. Mm-hmm. I guess there's this, obnoxious businessman type who's on the jury, and I think he suggested that Veronica be the foreman so that he could just boss her around.
Yes.
Which I don't know why he didn't just do it himself. That would have been
because he seemed to then proceed to run the room.
Right. He didn't know what he was getting into, but even if he did,
yes,
he would have been better off just handling it himself if he wanted to be in charge. So anyway.
But the character known on IMDb as Knitting Grandmother was not going to let him have his win.
That's right. I talked about this on the podcast before, right? That when I was on jury duty and there was a little grandma on our jury too.
Yeah.
And she didn't knit, but there was a whole question in our case about whether the defendant would have been able to remove his handcuffs while they were cuffed behind, his hands were cuffed behind his back in the backseat of a squad car. Right? Okay. So she, this like sweet little grandma type, was like, well, I tried it at home and I could do it. So that kind of reminded me of Knitting Grandma.
Yes, you did. You go, Knitting Grandma. And also, hi there, Angela Blake from The West Wing. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Being a women's studies professor at a little podunk college in Neptune, but still.
Right.
It's like she started talking and I'm like, I know that voice. Where do I know her from? I had to go Google her.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, I mean, Veronica, of course, is on the case and can't just let these 2 09ers who are accused of something. She will not allow that to stand. She's going to not.
Plus, people are accosting her in the supermarket, and her dad is, or wherever she was. People are at school, I guess it was.
Mm-hmm.
People are talking to her about the case, and her dad is putting up things on her computer about the case. Everybody knows what case she's in. Is this like a huge, famous case in Neptune?
Right.
Seems odd. But
everything about it was odd, and
as with so much of Veronica Mars, you got to let it wash over you.
Right. I mean, the best thing that happened in this episode was at the very end, who returned to Neptune? Wallace came back.
So glad to see him, although the second episode then took him in a direction I did not.
Yes.
I could have done without, but it was such an afterthought in that particular episode, which was so jam-packed with nonsense,
right, that
we'll get back to that, Wallace. But right now, we have an international intrigue situation going on. But this one, there was also in One Angry Veronica, the plot of Logan buying and then destroying, but first heartbreakingly watching sex tapes of his dad and Lily. So Leo,
Aww,
you come back for this, Leo? Leo apparently stole them to sell them to get money for his sister to get special education, which you can actually, I'm pretty sure, get free in California, but okay.
Right.
I've had my battles that made me think if I were independently wealthy, I would get my kid in a special school. So I will give that to you, Leo. But, and then Logan finds out about it from Keith, and he steals a list of all the emails in the police department, and he makes an offer, and Leo sells to him for a lower price, so then he gets the tapes. I'm not sure why he destroys them, other than I could spin a story where he wants to protect Lily, and he doesn't want this to be, shown all over the place. And
yeah, I think that's what you're meant to believe he's doing.
I can sort of see that, but it also means that his dad's getting out of jail for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the tapes, the case is just 100% circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
But without them, I don't think testimony as to what was in them is going to make any headway, because presumably Aaron is, number one, rich enough to have a super duper lawyer, right, and number two, an actor by trade. So he's going to steamroll right through a trial.
Right. I mean, even if you have, 5 witnesses that can talk about what's on the tape, which they do, it doesn't prove that he killed her.
Yes.
So.
No, it does not at all. But we saw there was a flashback on TV. We saw him do it. So that's an unpleasant episode ahead.
Right.
I got to tell you right now, I'm going to lay down my law. I don't watch trial episodes. If we actually see a trial, I'm going to take that episode off. Okay. You can report to the fine listeners what happened. I ain't going to watch it. But I just don't do those.
Well, and it was random that in this episode about being on jury duty, they never showed any of the trial.
I know. That was so weird. It's like, oh, here's my jury duty notice. Let me walk into this room with these people and talk about this case.
Right.
What important things were skipped? The 2 or 3 days you sat doing nothing in a big room, skipped right over those. The actual trial, skipped right over that. Let's just get to the part where we can allude to the movie of the title.
Agreement.
So, yes. Took me way too long to realize that's what the title referred to. But,
yeah.
So that was a weird episode. And I don't know. It's, glad to have Wallace back. And that excellent work by Jason Dohring to just him watching that.
Oh my gosh.
That was just very powerful.
Yes.
The rest of it, okay. It's
just unnecessary. I mean, there was no...
It was filler.
Yeah.
How many episodes did they have to come up with for this season?
Right.
Especially because the episode that followed it had enough plot for 3 very bad episodes, all plowed into one.
Yes, well, let's talk about that one. Donut Run.
Which I did not realize until I mentioned on the Veronica Mars Investigations podcast. Donut is Duncan's nickname?
Lily called him that. I think she was the only
like in one flashback or something?
Yeah, I think she was the only
They're
one.
They're giving us way too much credit for paying attention, I think. But,
yeah.
Okay.
So I think, as they talked about in the beginning of the podcast, that this entire thing was completely unnecessary because Duncan is the father of that baby. So he did not need to kidnap her. He did not need this elaborate whole thing to get her out of the country. I feel like there was something that was cut that gave an explanation of this. And I know you have a theory also, which is quite plausible.
I agree with you. It seemed like, I guess they didn't want to have something that would explain it because they wanted to keep the audience in the dark about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But keeping the audience in the dark about that.
Right. I mean, there was just like
the reason for it.
There was a part where Veronica said like, oh, and he can't see his baby.
Yes.
Which was like, well, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was some vague, her parents are saying because of his condition or something like that. There was some, boogada reasons, language, but it didn't hold together. It didn't make sense. Right. The only way I can make sense of this, and whether they ever return to it or not, this is how I'm going to explain it in my head, is on the Veronica Mars Investigations podcast, their legal person who first came on to explain that Duncan didn't need to do this. He had he could easily have gotten custody of the kid. Her parents would not have had any say in it. Mm-hmm. Also said that Celeste had to be in on it. Duncan's mother had to be in on it, because otherwise she would have prosecuted Veronica for selling the diamonds. She would have no reason not to, because she supposedly hates Veronica and said many rude things to her. So I like that explanation, because then it can be about, we don't want to drag, we don't want to go through a trial. We don't want to have her parents making accusations. We don't want to have to prove fitness. We don't want all this nastiness in public. Mm-hmm. We don't roll that way. We're just going to call Clarence Weedman. He's going to set up this whole huge thing to get Duncan out of town. Veronica's going to help out, and then we will be done with it, and we will never see him again. As indeed, apparently this is it for Duncan. Goodbye.
Right. And Celeste, I think.
Yes. So, I mean, that's the way I'm going to explain it in the context of the story, is that Celeste was in on it. This was a family thing. And that's why we don't have to worry about where Duncan goes from here or does from here, or how he makes money or how he's protected. The Kane dynasty is in on it.
Right.
This is 2 generations of Kanes. That's Clarence Weedman's job. Take care of it. The way to explain it in the context of the show is it's a Teddy Dunn exit vehicle. Mm-hmm. Give him one exciting episode that explains why we are never going to see him again.
Right.
And that's fine. Okay. I'll accept it as that. It's better than him just going away for Christmas and then deciding not to come back, which they could just as well have done. Right. But
to either Napa or Aspen, depending.
Whichever. So yeah, okay. I mean, there was a pleasantness about the episode in terms of seeing how everything fit together and figuring things out, and sort of turning Vinnie Van Lowe from Celeste's minion to Duncan's, and all these little things were just sort of delightfully knitted. And the laundry minion, yes. Being in on, which also I think speaks to Celeste being involved, because as they mentioned on the podcast, there's no reason that girl would be helping Duncan out against his mother.
Yes.
So, so I think that speaks to it being her being, hey, you look a little like Veronica, go around and do these things so we can continue the ruse. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was not unamusing to watch and to see how everything came together. And then it also does finally bring about something which needs to happen. Was just needed to happen for a long time, which is that she's lying to Keith all the dang time, and he has never called her on it. And when he does call her on it, it's going to be painful, and it was, and she needs to feel that pain. Right. That, your life does not just belong to you. You are a cornerstone of your father's life, and he is a man of honor, and what the heck are you doing? Mm-hmm. So I think that was a long time coming and well-deserved and very nicely executed, especially since it was immediately followed by him sassing the FBI on her behalf.
Lucy Lawless!
Yay! I'm going to think she's in on it too.
So. That was the other part of this episode that was so satisfying, was her just constantly dissing Sheriff.
Yes! That was lovely and so well-deserved.
Oh, yes.
And although she did underestimate Veronica, but I think she appreciated her in the end.
Yeah. So. Well, the whole, they're like, Lamb tried to warn her. Like, you have to watch out for this one. She's like, oh yeah, she's 18. Mm-hmm, sure.
I think by the end she had an appreciation. She should have invited her to join the FBI. I think Veronica's got some skills. But I think there was some product involved with Veronica being in the FBI at some future point. Video or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was fun to have Lucy Lawless, and to just have Duncan and Veronica be ahead of them and the audience, and we just never quite know what it is. But I was so relieved when they had that fight, that public breakup fight. I'm like, there is no way Veronica does this.
Right.
There is no way she stands in public in front of a bunch of 09ers and says, Meg's dead, but I'm alive and I'm your girlfriend. Every other blonde in Neptune High School, I would believe it.
Right.
Not her. So it's like, is this a dream sequence? This is not a real thing that is happening. So I was very relieved later when they said, yes, that was fake.
To realize that was all fake.
Because of course it was fake. She
did do an excellent job of moping about when she was supposedly broken up with Duncan.
So apparently the Virgin Suicide soundtrack is the thing for that, I guess. Mine was Carly Simon's Torch album. It was my excellent breakup misery album.
Music.
But it's pretty old now. So I guess we all have our thing. But I mean, just putting your dad through that for fake is mean enough. Never mind the fact that you could go to jail and it would destroy him. But it was fraught, that episode.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But so long, Duncan. I can't really say as we'll miss you.
Right. Yeah. He was cute with the baby.
He was.
Which they set up in the previous two before when he had the fake baby for school.
Yes. Yes. But the fact that it was completely unnecessary really undercuts pretty much all of the drama of it.
Right.
What are you doing, man? What are you doing? So.
Yeah, there was no reason why they couldn't explain that, Meg's parents are trying to get custody, and I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, if we just kind of figured that Celeste was in on it and did it this way to keep the family name out of blah, 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 right. Surely she could also offer the Mannings like $2 million to their church to just shut up and go away.
Yeah, and also... Well, yeah. And I guess it wouldn't come out unless there was a trial, but the whole child abuse situation would seem relevant here.
I would think that they could. I would think that, say, Clarence Weidman could compel them to drop all demands for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And in one way or the other.
Right.
Either, they end up with a bunch of money someplace else or they end up in a landfill. One or the other. They're out of the picture and Duncan and Veronica can get married and raise the baby. But it is not to be because I guess Teddy Dunn is off to law school or something. So another life.
Yes. All right. Well, goodbye, Teddy. Goodbye, baby
Good
Lily.
luck to you, sir. Yes. And hello, I'm sure a whole bunch of more complications for Veronica Mars, including having to deal with Aaron again. What?
Yeah. And Wallace. So next week...
Wallace!
Next week, we're going to go double up again. We'll talk about 2 more episodes.
Yes.
Number 12 is Richard and Wallace go to White Castle. So hopefully Wallace will somehow be absolved in this one. We'll see.
I hope so.
And then after that, it's number 13. It's called Ain't No Magic Mountain High Enough.
Oh, do you know what, I assume this is what they mean by Magic Mountain, but may not. There's an amusement park in Southern California called Magic Mountain.
Yeah, I think that's gonna.
Is that what it applies
to? I think that's gonna be relevant. Yeah,
because I think there's also there's like a book called Magic Mountain or something. Could be, but I went to Magic Mountain many a time as a high schooler.
There you go. So kids from Neptune do that too.
My very brief fling with roller coasters because I was dating a guy who liked them. And then I never did them again.
All right. Well, we'll see. Well. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we shall.
And that's going to be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes. We have something new for you every weekday. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Bye, Terry.
Bye, Catherine.
Goodbye, everyone.